Objectives. In this unit we shall take up passages and show you how they can be summarized. This unit will help you write summaries of passages by giving you practice in separating essential from non-essential ideas, separating details from ideas, removing repetition or restatement, making use of grammatical features to determine the importance of the ideas being presented, giving importance to the words which link sentences and ideas, and becoming aware of how ideas in a passage are systematically linked to each other. After you have worked through the unit, you should be able to perform all the tasks indicated above and write effective summaries. Introduction. Of all the writing we have discussed so far, note-making and summary writing may well be the ones you are most expected to do in your academic life as a student and as a researcher. In fact, we are summarizing information all the time. We watch a movie and tell our friends the story in 2 minutes. We listen to long conversations and say, so what you are actually saying is. Think of a long newspaper report running into 3 columns, but with a neat 5-word headline which summarizes the entire report. Summaries may involve 1 or 2 key words, a line, or it may be quite an elaborate write-up. It all depends on the purpose of the writing. Why do we summarize what we read? Most often we summarize what others have said. We use this material for future reference. It forms an essential part of our preparation for an exam, a class discussion, a presentation, writing of projects, research papers and term papers. In this unit we will look at ways in which we can condense information in a long text. As students, you are expected to read and remember large amounts of prose. In many of your college courses, you are probably able to memorize facts and key statements with relative ease, but at times you are expected to go a step further, i.e., read critically and closely so as to present the argument or information of an article in as cogent a form as possible and in your own words. In order to demonstrate that you have understood the main idea of a text, you must be able to paraphrase, summarize, and even compose a précis of the text. Paragraph, precise and summary. Let us first explain these 3 terms: paraphrase, précis and summary. To paraphrase is to rewrite something using different words without changing the original meaning. This is what is usually meant by the phrase, in your own words. The paraphrase is usually clearer and more easily understood than the original, and is usually similar in length to the original. The purpose of a paraphrase is to convey the meaning of the original message and, in doing so, to prove that we have understood the passage well enough to restate it in our own words. The précis is derived from the word precise. A précis usually reduces the length of the original passage by at least 2/3. Every important idea must be retained, preferably in the order in which it appears in the original. A summary is much shorter than the original text, and communicates the main idea of the text and the supporting points written again, in one's own words. The summary should give someone who has not read the original a clear and accurate overview of the text. Writing a summary therefore requires a combination of precise writing ability and the ability to paraphrase. Writing summaries. The art of condensation. One of the skills required to write précis and summaries is using concise language. Before practicing writing summaries, let us look at how we can say and write sentences in brief. Writers often load their prose with extra words or phrases that do not seem to add to the meaning of the sentence. Although such words and phrases are meaningful in the appropriate context, they can easily be left out. We can eliminate these unnecessary words and phrases. For instance, completing the project proposal by June 10th is an impossibility without some kind of extra help. For all purposes, American industrial productivity generally depends on certain factors that are really more psychological in kind than of any given technological aspect. A more concise version is, completing the project proposal by June 10th is impossible without help. American industrial productivity depends more on psychological than on technological factors. A single word can sometimes replace a phrase. Therefore, we can convert phrases into single words whenever possible. Often, adjectival or adverbial phrases can be replaced with a single adjective or adverb. For example, he is never late and is always on time. He is punctual. The employee with ambition equals the ambitious employee. The department showing the best performance equals the best performing department. The company buys compressors from other countries equals the company imports compressors. Do you think you are incapable of making mistakes? Equals do you think you are infallible? Using a clause to convey meaning that could be presented in a phrase or even a word contributes to wordiness. We can therefore convert modifying clauses into phrases or single words where possible. The report, which was released recently, equals the recently released report. All applicants who are interested in the job must. All job applicants. The system that is most efficient and accurate equals the most efficient and accurate system. Writing that focuses directly on a point and maximizes meaning with minimum wordiness tends to be both clear and concise. Revising for clarity of meaning often makes the writing more concise. Read this sentence. The cause of the failure of our schools to teach basic skills is not understanding the influence of cultural background on learning. Now read the revised sentence. Our schools fail to teach basic skills because they do not understand how cultural backgrounds influence learning. Identifying the topic sentence. A paragraph is a group of sentences related to a particular topic, or central theme. Every paragraph has a key concept or main idea. The main idea is the most important piece of information the author wants you to know about that paragraph. A writer will state her main idea explicitly somewhere in the paragraph. That main idea may be stated at the beginning of the paragraph, in the middle, or at the end. The sentence in which the main idea is stated is the topic sentence of that paragraph. Read the passage below. For many years people have wished they could fly through the air like birds. Skydivers have found a way to fly without a machine. They jump from an airplane and fall at the rate of 120 miles an hour. The fall is so smooth that they don't feel like they're moving at all. When they pull the ripcord on their parachute, they float the rest of the way to the ground. Which sentence in the paragraph do you think summarizes the text best? A. Skydivers have found a way to fly without a machine. B. The fall is so smooth that they don't feel like they're moving at all. C. For many years people have wished they could fly through the air like birds. D. They jump from an airplane and fall at the rate of 120 miles an hour. It is A. The other sentences, B, C, and D, just elaborate what these ways of flying without a machine are. The topic sentence announces the general theme of the paragraph. Although the topic sentence may appear anywhere in the paragraph, it is usually in the beginning. The last sentence of a paragraph can also contain the topic sentence. It is likely to be a concluding sentence. It is used to sum up a discussion, to emphasize a point, or to restate all or part of the topic sentence so as to bring the paragraph to a close. It can fall in the middle of a paragraph as well, especially when a paragraph begins with an introductory sentence that is meant to grab your attention. Identifying the key ideas. Any piece of writing is made up of a few key, or main, ideas. However, if all a writer did was to put these forward briefly and concisely, few, if any, readers would be able to fully grasp the writer's meanings, or be able to see the significance and implications of what he or she has to say. Consequently, writers tend to explain, extend, or flesh out what they think and say by including examples and evidence that lead the reader through the piece to make it more understandable. As a reader, our job is to grasp these key ideas or items of information, to understand the essential points in a text. One useful technique to help you do this effectively is for you to highlight the key ideas. Underlining key ideas will help you focus your attention on what you are reading. When you are selecting ideas from a passage, ask yourself the following question. If this idea were omitted, would the fundamental meaning of the passage be changed? Newspaper headlines are the best précis that we see around us. News headlines generally present the main idea very succinctly and clearly. Read the news item below and say which of the headlines best summarizes it. New York, May 31st, App, a pink cocktail dress by Audrey Hepburn in Breakfast worn was for at Tiffany's, auctioned $192,000, euro 143,000, more than 6 times its estimated value. The sleeveless dress, worn for the scene in which Holly Golightly discovers her brother has died, sold Wednesday to a private European buyer at Christie's sale of film and entertainment memorabilia. The auction house said it had expected the dress to sell for up to $30,000, euro 22,000. The sale was filled with iconic pieces, said Helen Hall, Christie's head of entertainment memorabilia. It captured people's imagination. Hall said the auction house was pleased with the results of the sale, which brought in $1.2 million, euro 890,000. Audrey Hepburn's dress bought by a European buyer. 2. Dress worn by Audrey Hepburn auctioned for $192,000. 3. A private European buyer pays $192,000 for a dress. 4. The dress Audrey Hepburn wore in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Which of these do you think is a suitable headline? To find this out, read the news item and ask yourself, what is the main idea? It is definitely about a dress Audrey Hepburn wore in one of her films. It is also about the sale of her dress. It is about the huge price at which it was bought. The rest, who bought it and why, is important but not necessarily the main idea of the news item. Therefore, the answer is 2. 4.3.4 Identifying the main claim and supporting arguments. Every essay contains many ideas, but the first thing you need to determine is what the central thesis of the text is. You need to be able to state this claim in a clear and concise manner. You should skim through each text before reading it carefully and, after skimming, try to determine the central thesis or claim. Then you will be able to go on to the next step. The next thing you need to look for is the author's specific arguments in defense of his or her overall position, thesis. Usually an author gives more than one argument in favor of his, her thesis. A text can be seen as the following structure. Main idea, claim. Reason why the author is making this claim. Reason why the author is making this claim. Reason why the author is making this claim. Evidence to support each reason. Evidence to support each reason. Evidence to support each reason. Let us look at one such text to explain this structure. Read the following text. It has one main thesis and 3 supporting arguments and 1 conclusion. Text. The government should provide more financial assistance to parents who use childcare. Childcare centers may assist children in their early development. They give children an opportunity to mix with other children and to develop social skills at an early age. A whole range of learning occurs in childcare centers. Parents and children need to spend some time apart. Children become less dependent on their parents, and parents themselves are less stressed and more effective caregivers when there are periods of separation. Recent studies indicate that the parent-child relationship can be improved by the use of high-quality childcare facilities. Parents who cannot go to work because they don't have access to childcare facilities cannot contribute to the national economy. They are not able to utilize their productive skills and do not pay tax. Government support for childcare services assists individual families and is important for the economic prosperity. Make notes of the main idea and the 3 arguments in support. The main idea. The arguments. 1, 2, 3. The main idea asserts a conclusion, an idea, an opinion, a judgment, or a point of view that the writer wants you to accept. The support includes reasons, shared beliefs, assumptions, and values, and evidence, facts, examples, statistics, and authorities that give readers the basis for accepting the conclusion. It is also necessary to identify the type of author's arguments. We also need to identify how the author tries to persuade us, by appealing to our reason or intellect or to our emotions. Please note that even when we summarize, we need to acknowledge the source. Techniques of summarizing. Read the passage given below. It talks about natural ways of fertilizing the soil. The method suggested here is the use of earthworms to freshen the soil. We will now help you summarize this rather large passage. Earthworms back in the garden. 1. Earthworms are the answer for every garden problem, according to Harold John Weigel. They can increase crop production, turn and freshen soil, and produce faster growth. Simply take care of the earthworms, and the earthworms will take care of the garden. Weigel is extremely enthusiastic about earthworms. They are tremendous creatures, the intestines of the earth. Weigel says, quoting Charles Darwin. 2. Weigel is so excited about the benefits of worms that he is writing a book about them. He gardens using thousands of earthworms. He has persuaded his wife to put worms in her houseplant pots. He even suggests eating worms, which he claims are 70% protein. He has dreams of armies of earthworms helping to replace topsoil in the country. It is a fact, he says, that topsoil is disappearing every year through erosion. Wind and water carry away the soil, and nature needs centuries to replace it. 3. Within 1 year, 1,000 earthworms and the descendants can change approximately 1 ton of organic matter into one of the highest yield growing materials known, according to Weigel. Worms eat organic material and produce what is known as worm castings. If 1,000 pounds of earthworms are working 1 acre of land, every 24 hours they will produce 1,000 pounds of castings that function as a high-grade topsoil, Weigel said. They produce the same amount of topsoil in 1 day that nature could produce in 700 years through decomposition and erosive forces such as wind and rain. 4. Planting gardens in worm castings offers plants more than just all the necessary nutrients. For example, castings are very porous, and water flows easily through them. They are very absorbent, being able to hold water easily. In addition, worms tend to be happiest around the roots of plants. Water can then flow directly to roots through the worm channels. The worms' channels also give air to the plants. Because the worms dig in the soil, they create a planting area of even consistency. Thus, the earthworms act as natural plows. 5. Worms offer all these benefits, yet they make few demands. They need only moisture, darkness, and food from the soil. Weigel gets his information on the benefits of earthworms from books and from the Worm Growers Association. That little-known group, which is active in many states, suggests that commercial farmers reintroduce earthworms in places where they have been killed through the use of synthetic fertilizers and other gardening chemicals.